What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Off the Wall. We are today reviewing Stranger Things Season 4, Part 2. And I'll be one of your hosts today. I'm a regular. My name is Bogz with my boy, Sean. So he is making his debut on Off the Wall today. Sean, how you doing? First day on the channel. How's it going? Long time no see.
I'm doing pretty good. So we're reviewing the entirety of Stranger Things season 4, not just part 2. We're doing the whole thing, right?
No, we'll just do part 2. I mean, obviously, we can reference,
Yeah,
we're going to have to reference certain things before, of course,
yeah.
but generally, it's a finale part 2 review. Just confirm it as well, it will be a spoiler review. We're not holding anything back. So, spoilers alert. And yeah, so obviously, it was 2 episodes. First episode was an hour and a half, roughly, give or take 5 minutes. Second episode was 2 hours and a half. That's 4 hours of Stranger Things content. I was so excited all week. Really looking forward to it. Obviously, season 4 was strong as well. Even if you, like I said, to be honest, this show is kind of undeniable that it's good. It's just how much you like it. If you like, you can objectively say Stranger Things is an excellent show. So it's got comedy, it's got the callbacks, it's got the references, it's got a good story, it's got a great cast, it's got the effects, good writing, sci-fi. It ticks so many boxes. So you can objectively say it's a good show. But how, we're going to get into how we rank this season, what characters, what moments we think is good, what we didn't like. But overall, Sean, two things I want to know first. What are your overall thoughts on the season as a whole, but in particular, obviously the finale? And because I generally don't know, who is your favorite character in Stranger Things?
Oh, that's interesting. So overall, I liked the season 4 as a whole. The very last episode, I felt it was a little underwhelming compared to like the build up to it, like how they dealt with Vecna and all that. Was a little underwhelming. But overall, I think season 4 is the strongest season since season 1. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I and my favorite character. That's a good question. I mean, I'm kind of digging Robin more and more as the show goes along. Ethan Hawke's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that she got her. Maybe she's gonna get with that girl, maybe not. But she's like kind of overcome her little shyness. So she's able to at least talk to her regularly, have a regular conversation. So she's kind of grown on me. But of the OG cast, I mean, how could you not like 11? I mean, she's great, and plus what they've done with her over time,
Mm.
slowly evolving her into more of a character where she actually has feelings and emoting things. Millie Bobby Brown has done a great job playing her since the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with Millie Bobby Brown. Even though she conveys, it makes you, the way that she kind of displays her powers and whether her reactions to that as well. Even her screams, you think that might get annoying, but it doesn't. Like it's
No,
really believable, and the emotions in the kind of events that unfold, whether she's like in Max's dream or whether she's taking on someone or whether she's with her papa or whatever. Everything's really good. Like her acting is pretty fantastic, even though when they've kind of de-aged her or as
yes.
she is or whatever the circumstances, like yeah, she definitely stand out. um, for me, my favorite characters has always been Hopper, to be honest. Up until I'd say this season, and that is one of the criticisms of which I'll come to later. He's just not in it that much. For obvious reasons, he's in Russia and stuff. That's a storyline I didn't particularly feel like there was an overall need for really at the end of it, but he was definitely my undisputed favorite character. But because he's hardly been in it this season, it's kind of now Steve. I've seen a definite change, a development with him. I always liked him, to be honest, but now he's like the elder. Now he's turning into their like kind of protector hero. Seems to just taking the senior role, like taking over Hopper's role as a protector of the kids, and
Yeah.
he's a reliant one. He does like the flips and just the little the way he carries himself. I like my heroes, and he's like the hero of the pack there.
I
But
missed the bat with the spikes on it. I kind of
yeah,
missed
yeah, that
that.
was cool. That was cool.
But you're kind of right in the sense that like he has developed along the way, and he kind of even tell Nancy that in the last episode.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't for you,
And she says that as well. He's grown up.
yeah,
I was like,
yes,
yeah,
he really
he's
has.
right.
And I mean, I'll be very honest. I thought he was primed to die in the last
Mm-hmm.
episode.
Yeah.
I thought they were setting up
There's
him
a
kind
few,
of
yeah.
not
That's what-
rekindling his romance with Nancy, but kind of just like making an amends, almost like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Will
sorry
they,
I was
won't
a
they?
dick, and like and him submitting to her like you're part of me not being a dick anymore. So I was like, well, and plus Eddie was kind of there to almost take his place in a way, and he was getting jealous that
With Dustin.
Dustin was kind of like hanging out with him. He's like, oh, what happened with our bromance? So I thought they did a good job of like doing a swerve and Steve not dying. But now I'm kind of wondering like, well, where does his character go next season? Is like one of the major questions I have going into the last season 5.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I think both of the girls kind of he was with for the majority of the season. I think they both helped develop his character, which is why kind of I think them three were together a lot of the time. But yeah, my overall thoughts on the season, I've got to say, I pretty much agree. I was a little underwhelmed. Obviously, I was very entertained. There's some dramatic moments, there's some emotional moments, but this is a really big cast. So I'm talking 15 to 20 main cast members. There's obviously the OG characters, the original kind of 4 kids plus 11, plus Winona Ryder and David Hopper, obviously. And apart from them, like I said, there's loads of other characters. I expected a lot of these to die, and they pretty much don't. Like one or two, obviously, which we'll come to later, but people that just kind of come in the series and then leave again. And that's a consistent thing that has happened, whether it's Sean Austin's character, whether it's Billy, Max's sister, these characters just come and go. And I kind of figured it out at some point in the episode. I think it was just the part 2 of the finale, where I think Hopper, at some point, my main thing I wanted from this episode, Sean, was that I wanted everyone together, which we got in the last 15 minutes. But I wanted everyone together to take on Vecna, going to the Upside Down, whatever the case is. And they were literally spelling out how they can't come together, as in like Hopper would say something like, oh, we're not going to get there in time, so we can take them on here and buy 11 time. And I was like, oh, you guys not going to be together whilst you're taking on Vecna and obviously the guys in the desert who were with 11, they just went to like I don't know what restaurant it was, but it was like, we'll go to a KFC and use the bath.
They went to
like,
the pizza place.
The pizza place, wherever it's called, where the guy works, And I was like, oh, really? Are you not going to make it back in time? It's just, they just established that we're not going to be together through the events of this episode. And the stuff that happened, obviously, which we'll get into, yes, it was good, but I was, at the end, disappointed with what happened. And like I said, there were definitely emotional moments which we'll cover, but I was definitely underwhelmed because the show is at its best for me in season 1, like season 2 as well, when they are all together going through these adventures and having the comedy and some people learning things and then going back and then their parents finding out, and then the parents knew some things, and they'd all kind of catch up, and it would just be kind of hilariously falling through these missions. And it's kind of moved away from that now to kind of these different shows all in one. So, but yeah, we'll come to that a bit later. So, going to go through each gang at the minute. So, let's talk about the Russia team, okay. Team Russia, let's call them.
Team Russia.
Yeah. So, for me, before we get into that, like I said, Hopper is my favorite character. And I see him almost, honestly, I see him in season 1, 2, and 3 almost as like a superhero to the kid. Like he was so strong, physical, the way he'd be a protector for all of them, obviously, especially 11. Winona Ryder, obviously their relationship was great, but obviously they spent the entire series trying to get Hopper back, obviously going into Russia, seeing his prison life, seeing how they get out, the help that they need, and then taking on the kind of demagogues in the end because of the, they're all connected and that stuff. In the end, I was 100% underwhelmed with that storyline. And obviously we did get an emotional payoff when they are back together, and it was great to see, hey girl, giving her a hug, and then Ryder's character seeing everyone, obviously them getting their mother back, etc., etc. But I was just all I thought watching that is, why didn't this happen in the first or second episode? And then we just together they'd go on missions, and then obviously when they did do their thing, it would be such that there'd be more stakes because everyone is involved, and you might lose one of these characters. And I just never felt like, because I knew they were all going to come back together at the end at some point. So I was this was probably, I don't know, I didn't love that part. So the team, the Russia team, let's call them. So what are your thoughts on the Russia team? And how long they took to come back together. And then obviously, we did get some cool action moments, especially Hopper, with the sword, cutting the, Demogorgon's head off. So I was waiting for that to happen way earlier in this series, because he's great with the action and he looks so different as well. He's in great shape now. Obviously being in prison, so he's in better shape and stuff. So like I said, he is my favorite character, and it took so long for him to kind of get back into the main story. But please, what do you think about the Team Russia?
Well, Team Russia is an interesting one because I think the way the story was written, it was to extend Team Russia so that they wouldn't have time to get back to America. Because if Hopper and Winona Ryder's character are in Hawkins, the story plays out a little bit different. The kids aren't just like out there on their own, because the other parents are goddamn useless. They don't know where the kids are. Their roles got dramatically diminished this season. I know it's the 80s, but it's like there's murders going on. You don't know where your kids are. You don't seem to care as much. But that's another story. So because like I was enjoying it as much until I realized, they're not going to meet up, because they break him out of prison. It seems like they're going to get away, and then they catch him again. And then they have to break out again, and they break out like, they're gonna go back. No, they have to go back in again.
Yeah,
so I'm realizing, no, they're gonna just stay there. And what they ended up doing didn't really play into anything in terms of what 11 was doing. They really didn't tie that story to what 11 was doing. So literally, they were just there to keep them there, because again, if they're in Hawkins, then the story plays out differently. So they just found semi-clever ways to keep them there. I did like that they had their little moment where they were talking about the date, and she was like, "Is that all you were dreaming about?" Like wink, wink, kind of. So I liked that they had their little moment there. But I wish, and one of the reasons why I was like, the last episode is this long, because they're gonna have to give them time to get back together. But when you realize, that's not gonna happen, then the episode just felt longer, because it's like, well, why, if you're not getting them all together, can we just get to it already? It just feel like it was just drawn out way too much. And I was just kind of, I wouldn't say bored, but I was just like, all right, let's get to it. If they're not all going to be together, let's just get to the meat of it and kill Vecna and move on. But other than that, like throughout the season, I did enjoy their Team Russia, as you put it. But just the last episode or two, it just felt like they were just drawing it out way too much. And the way Enzo didn't die, it's like you were sitting all that talking about his daughter and all these things. Like, I'm sorry, his son. Like, you're giving us all this emotional information to set up what? As it turns out, nothing. Because he ended up, everybody lives.
A great escape, or something.
Yeah, so it's like, what really are the stakes then? So a little, it started out great. And then it just slowly started to peter out, because you realize, no, they're just going to stay there. So, and have no consequence to everything else.
No, it didn't. Yeah, and I agree. And yeah, there were some funny moments. Obviously, they're all, decent actors. And I think I did actually laugh out loud when I forgot the guy's name that used their little helper, the guy with the glasses.
I can't remember his name now.
Yeah, when he turns to Jim. Yeah, he turns to Jim and says, "I don't know, Jim. I got a bad feeling about this." I was like, "Oh, damn, that's the they're the references that I used to love." Murray, sorry, Murray is his name. Yeah. When he goes, "I don't know, Jim. I got a bad feeling," but obviously, Star Wars line, but it's really funny. But there are some funny moments. But overall, I just felt like it was a big waste of the characters, because, like I said, the whole season they were there, the whole season. So, and this season they are not half-an-hour episodes. They are an hour to an hour and a half plus. It was too long, and I was dying for them to get back in the main story, because that's when Stranger Things is at its best, when these characters are with the kids. So moving on from these, we'll go to I'll call it Team Desert, let's say. The road trip guys, in part one of season 4, as in the previous 7 episodes, this was definitely my worst part. I was nearly bored watching these guys just go on a road trip. You know, again, there's some OG characters there, and they just literally put them on a bus and they were just driving to find 11. Basically, that was their story, and and the same kind of thing. You know, it was. I know I've seen some of the online reaction. I think there has been a lot of positive reception for Will character.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Will is my least favorite character in Stranger Things. I don't know if it's the actor or what. I just really do not. From the first episode, I've just not. He's been my least favorite character. He's just, he's. I don't know. It's just not for me. Like his. I think it might be just the actor himself. There's something that just rubs me the wrong way about him, and I was just not interested in his story. I know they give him the most emotional moments from that team. They all have their little standout moments. And I forgot the guy with the long hair as well. Is it Angie or something they call him? He was almost completely useless in the first 7 episodes of season 4. He did have some use here, obviously with, I think he was driving and he obviously had a few, he got them to the pizza place, to use the bath and stuff. And he did have a couple of funny lines this time. So he wasn't completely useless this time. But obviously up until they kind of got to 11, I'm not interested in Mike's emotional moments. And they're repeating the same thing over and over again with him. Like, yeah, we get you different. Okay, we got it. Either it's because obviously what happened to you, originally, or you're going through this kind of sexual, discovery thing. What is it? I mean, they're teasing it every episode. It's actually becoming tedious for me. And yeah, he's not, like I said, people are going to, I've seen already that they love his acting and stuff like that, but it just wasn't for me. I think Jonathan as well, they've just wasted him. Like, he was a previously, quite interesting character storyline. But yeah, I was just bored with these guys. Like I said, until they start helping 11, I could have just skipped their scenes, to be honest. But what do you think? Yeah, the desert team, of the obviously what unfolded as well with, let's say up to getting to 11, and I'll pick it up back after that.
Yeah, I mean, up to 11, when they were pretty much like first going to Utah, and then they were the weakest cutaway team that that we had, especially in the first 7 episodes. And it was weird to see Mike on that team because Mike is basically the leader of this little group, and to kind of see him sideline and taking a back seat, which I think it helped the show because you gave other characters like Max and Robin more screen time for their relationship to develop, and Nancy and things like that. So I appreciated him taking a step back, but it was just weird to see. Like, he wouldn't normally be on that team. You might see like Dustin on that team. Like, because Dustin seems like he's kind of slide away a little bit more from the core 4, and he's more or less hanging with Steve and now Eddie. So I'm wondering, like, is that purposely done? Because he's hardly ever with the other 3 guys and 11. He's hardly ever with them. So I'm wondering, is there a reason why that is? Is there some on-set drama that's going on? I don't know. But anyway, but with Will, I think his character, unfortunately for me, has gotten the short end of the stick from the get-go. Because in season 1, he's barely in it because he's the MacGuffin. Yeah. He's almost kind of like in Hangover. All the 3 guys just looking for the other guy, and he gets a short shift. Right. And then ever since Will has come back, they're teasing that he's never been the same since he's gotten back from the Upside Down, but they really, really haven't gone there. And in this season, you can see they're teasing does he have a crush for Mike? It seems like he does, and I thought that poster thing was going to be kind of his way of saying something without directly saying it, to kind of see what Mike's reaction would be. And then if he reacted a positive way, then he would say something. I thought that's what he would, but it was just more or less like, see, remember, you're the leader. Remember, act like the leader because you're the heart. I was like, he needs to be told that. Okay, I'll buy it. But yeah, so it will. I hope they actually do something with him in the next season. I really hope so. Because at the beginning, it seemed like he had this little special relationship with 11, and I thought they were going to do something with that. But then he just got sidelined. He barely has any dialogue. it's unfortunate. And I'm sorry, what is Will's brother's character's name again?
Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan. Yeah, unfortunately, he was stoned half the time for not a good enough reason, in my opinion. So his character got diminished again. So it was just weird to see, and them going to Utah to find Dustin's girlfriend, and then their journey didn't really mean anything for the most part. So it just felt like, hey, let's find a reason to split the team up and get them out of here,
Yeah.
and not give them that much. And because they're in the 80s, you're driving takes a while. So at least they didn't do the Game of Thrones things where they're driving to like, all right, boom, they're there in Utah. I was like, no, this takes a while. But after all, just every time they cut to them, I'm just like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, they definitely took their time with them guys, but obviously they did find 11, and before they kind of head back to Hawkwell, they kind of break her out of the, I don't know, what do you call it exactly? Is bunker, mental science facility, place, and that's where we get obviously what happens with Matthew Modine's character, and obviously the agency kind of come and to wipe her out basically, and she takes down the helicopter. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
And they come pick her up and stuff, and obviously what happens to Matthew Modine's character there as well. I've said this before, Sean. I really, really like the disturbed, creepy characters because they're layered, and they've got history and all that kind of stuff that happened there. Where, even it kind of brought flashes back to right at the start of the season where we see 11 and all the kids that are killed and blood coming from her eyes. And when Matthew Modine's character walks in, he says, "What did you do?" And obviously that leads us as the audience to think she's killed them, or what has she done to these kids on this facility or the people who work there? Why has she killed them all? But it's literally the opposite. She's literally saved them all by sending obviously Vecna into the other dimension, into the upside down. But we don't discover, because that's so interesting, the dialogue that he's used. What did you do? That still is obviously that is there to confuse us, but it's used as a tool for him because as 11 addresses him, her papa and stuff, that obviously Vecna, it's now a mistake, and he's the monster. He doesn't agree. That's why he's purposely said, "What is it? What did you do?" Like, as in, you've sent him there. I still had work to do to bring this power out of him. Like, he was upset at what she'd done rather than, what she done to send him away in this other dimension, affecting his work. And up on his death scene, which was I was really kind of cheering on as he was getting shot, right? Because one of the main reasons is because I didn't want a redemption for him. Because when you have done such evil, when you've killed people, he's in effect, kept people against their will, tortured them, abused them, done science research on them, for his own needs, to try and extract their abilities and things like that. And just on the absolute surface level, obviously there is, he is a father kind of molded character where he does have slight care for these kids, but past that, I mean, he's a complete abuser as far as I'm aware, as far as I'm concerned. And upon when he's shot and he kind of takes her out of the bunker, and then he's getting shot, and then he even then again, I really like the dialogue. He says to her, "Do you understand?" As they were like his last words. He doesn't say, "Do you forgive me?" He doesn't say, "I'm sorry, I had to do what I had to do." He says, "Do you understand what I done?" And obviously they're holding hands. She drops his hand. She says goodbye. She doesn't forgive him, because I feel like if he did say, "I'm sorry, for what I done," or "I had to do what I had to do," or "I did it for you," or there wasn't an apology there. He wasn't sorry what he's put her through. I just felt excellent writing. And she drops him. She doesn't forgive him, or maybe she did it in a way, and obviously, but she's left him there because obviously she still does have care for him. There is, like I said, there's some basic love there, I guess, as an adult figure for her, which is the only one she had really since kind of he killed her mother in effect. So yeah, he kind of begged her for her to understand instead of apologize. So again, going down to the whole kind of disturbed nature of what he has, and then he kind of dies there alone in the desert. But What are your kind of thoughts from when she escapes from the bunker and kind of the action around that? And obviously Matthew Modine's character and his whole kind of comeuppance and what happened there.
all all that stuff was great, and don't get me wrong, I think the show does a like the writing, especially in this season, has been great when it comes to anything Hawkins related or to 11.
We'll get to that.
All the main stuff. I think they did a great job. The two other teams, I think that's where they had to give an excuse to get them out of the picture, and I don't think that just worked as well. But but that being said, I love the fact that, especially like in episode 8, when we kind of cut back to that scene, and now we fully understand what she really did. And then they play back, especially from that different angles now. It's just funny how it just it messes with your expectation, because we open it and we're like, oh my god, what did she do?
Did she forget? Are they hiding it? Like, why didn't they mention this? Yeah.
Like, what happened here? Like, so the Duffer Brothers did a great job of setting it up and paying that off. And Matthew Modine's character has just always been like this, like kind of like Frankenstein type character, with 11 being, the monster that he helped create. And I agree with you. I'm glad that, not everybody needs to be redeemed. Like, you do horrible things, you deserve a horrible death. And sometimes just because you're dying doesn't mean that you need to be forgiven. So the fact that she didn't do that, and the kind of show didn't let him off the hook either, I think was great. Like, that's what his character deserves. So all that stuff, and then like them having to help her get her powers back, which is fine. They got to give 11 something to do and them something to do. So I was like, okay, I'll give them that. But I'm glad that he didn't get redeemed. I agree with you 1,000%.
Yeah, and it was good end for his character, because obviously he was one of the villains in this, and we don't know. I didn't totally get what happened to Dr. Owens. The one that they kind of locked up.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't see a death scene. Obviously, we saw an explosion on the bunker where the helicopter landed on it, but doesn't mean he's dead. So we normally see an ending to a character for that. So we didn't for him. So that
no body
that bit
can still come back. That's
yeah, absolutely.
Same thing with Hopper. We didn't see his body. Yeah,
right.
He came back. So then, you never know.
Then he's in Russia. So now let's get to the Hawkins stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump all over the place with it, because obviously so much happened with the Hawkins stuff.
Yeah.
By far, it is the best thing in season 4. This storyline, every character in this storyline I was invested in. Whether it be the newer characters, the OG characters, the characters that have come in since then. Every storyline was gripping, fantastic. I'm going to start with Lucas and Max.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I would say Max is also another one of my not best or favorite characters, but she's kind of been put front and center in this series alongside 11, I'd say. And I can say, she's done a good job, very good job, I'd say, acting, with all the stuff that she's going through. Obviously, she's being targeted as the 4th kill for Vecna's character. I will say it was, for me, a little tedious, like the way that she wouldn't explain the plan totally throughout maybe some of the later episodes of the first part of the series, the first 7 episodes. How she was behaving with Lucas, she was really abrupt with him, and he's going so, he was just being so nice to her and out of his way, and trying to look after her as best he can, and her being like really defensive and abrupt with him. I thought just as well, Lucas, that character's really stepped up this year. His acting was great, and having the whole kind of high school bullies against him who he was with earlier on and turned against him through, they believe that this cult thing was going on, and that kind of ending climactic fight scene that he has with her. I thought that was great. And obviously what happens to Max at the end, obviously she has the what's going on in the real world with obviously Lucas, and then in the Upside Down where they have this issue with where she has with Vecna, and then obviously 11 comes in. It's kind of hard to explain, right? 11 comes in via where she was in her
Piggybacks,
dreams,
yeah.
in her memories. The piggyback, that's the word, yeah. In the other dream and stuff, and kind of helps her, thankfully. But the way, because of all the teams, the way they were separate, like I said, the desert team and the Russia team, I just had a feeling that none of the OG characters or the characters that have kind of related or have relationship with the OG characters, um, like a Max, just nothing was going to happen to them because um, I just saw, I didn't see a, I thought it was getting a bit predictable when when the teams were staying separate. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay, they're not going to kill them before they come together, right? They'll come together, and that's when dramatic things will happen because they'll sacrifice themselves in front of each other, whatever, that kind of stuff. And I just had a feeling that nothing would happen to them. And then when she dies, I was shocked. Honestly, I was shocked. And how they killed it, they were killing her like the other ones were killed, the three before
Yeah.
her, with her hands and feet getting bent. And I thought her eyes are going to pop and that kind of stuff. Pretty gruesome. Um, and then I did like the way, obviously, 11 saves her in the upside down. And then she's kind of in this stuck phase where she's kind of half of her body's kind of bent and her eyes are like kind of bleeding and they nearly kind of went in on themselves and then she dies. She can't see anything. I thought, what a great way to kill off a character, one unexpected way. And then it lasted about a minute, and then 11 brings her back a little bit.
How? I don't know.
I'll be honest, I did roll my eyes at that part. Like it was like
Yeah.
I felt like it was like a Princess Leia Last Jedi moment, a little bit. Like just touches her and brings her back, like just kind of the way she flew through space. I was just like,
Yeah.
is it just one of these things you're just supposed to just accept that? That's definitely not something we've seen before. I'm not ready for you to die, touch. And then it brings her back, and I was a little disappointed at that. I just thought, oh man, that'd be such a dramatic way to kill off a lead character of this series. Um, so yeah, your thoughts on Max? And obviously she does, she'll survive. She's kept in hospital, but I'm just really interested to see what they're going to do with her next season. Like she was literally she was dead for a minute. Now they've kind of brought her back, and is she like a vegetable now? I don't know. Like because she was blind before she died. So like, what is going on with her now? So your thoughts on Max, on Lucas, and obviously Eleven's involvement in that storyline, and Vecna kind of brutality, the way he killed her or like half killed her.
Well, I mean, I think they might. There's rumors that they might do a time jump between 4 and 5, so that might
4 and 5, yeah.
explain her getting better.
Yeah,
Because yeah, like
true,
her
true.
arm and leg are broken, and she's in a coma. And they specifically said like, hey, the doctors aren't sure she'll wake up. She's gonna wake up. I mean, it's just a matter of how they set it up. But I really like her character this season because I love that she's really broken over the fact that she basically said, "I wanted Billy gone," and then he was gone, and I felt guilty because like now I'm left, and what do I have to offer? So I love that she was dealing with that kind of emotion, and she's just pushing Justin. She loves Justin, but she's just pushing him away because like I have to deal with I don't know how to deal with my own emotion. I can't be with you. So I love that dynamic, and I like that they really didn't she was still dealing with it. So I like that they didn't like, oh well, I love you now, and I'm glad they didn't have that moment because that would have kind of cheatened the what she was emotionally going through, especially like with her writing the letter to everybody, and then having that conversation at Billy's grave. All that was just great, great. And then once she didn't die that time, I was like, she's not gonna die. So them setting it up and just like, nope, she's not. They're gonna find a way to save her, and I wasn't worried at all about her. And then when she died, I was just like, really? And then when she kind of got the like the magic touch, I was like, really?
Yeah.
I know she wasn't gonna die, but this is what you do. Okay, whatever. So but her performance and the writing for her character was great. Justin was a very interesting
Lucas. Yeah.
Lucas, sorry, was another interesting character because you can see him like slipping away from the group. Like, oh, I'm not playing D&D anymore. I'm playing basketball. And the fact that he won the game in the first episode, and now he's hanging with the cool kids, and kind of getting swept because that happens in high school. Like you have your friends in grade school, you go to high school, and you start slowly drifting apart. So all that kind of stuff made sense, and yeah, his performance was great. Because he was always, I felt like, especially when Will wasn't there, he was always the third kid.
Yeah,
And when
for sure.
when Will was there, he was the fourth kid. So I'm kind of glad that a lot of, especially early on in the first half of season 4, he got a lot of things to do, even though his parents didn't know where he was. But that's another story. But yeah, and then that little fight scene at the end was not as believable. I'm like,
No, I did see a couple of stunt doubles.
yeah. Well,
And
not
some
even that.
punches
He's
not
a
landing as
senior,
well.
and you're a freshman.
Yes.
He's
that as
bigger
well.
than you. He would have beat the crap out of you.
Yeah.
And I mean, he did, but
And he came with a gun.
Lucas wouldn't have. Real life Lucas wouldn't have won that fight. I wish they would have figured out a different way for him to get out of it. Maybe his sister would have helped him, which she's great too, by the way. In the scene, I love
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they gave her more to
It's
do.
funny.
But yeah, with the whole thing with 11, how she piggybacked in, just the fact that they didn't explain it, and I don't think they're ever going to. Just
Not
like,
really,
oh,
no.
I got the magic touch, and now you're awake. Like they could have said, like, does that take some of her power away? Like you could have explained something, like something like that. Anything. I wanted something, anything. But just like, whatever. Maybe they'll explain it next season. But I was never worried about Max, and the Kate Bush song. We should mention that, how that song now has like rocketed up the charts now. Kate Bush is getting paid now, so shout out to her. It's a good song too. So
Yeah, I've been number 1 in the UK for a few weeks. Like, isn't it fascinating how even the lyrics to that song is just so relevant to this story? Like the soundtrack for this is excellent. Obviously, the score is good, but the soundtrack, that they use the Sting song in this, and there's some other songs as well. Obviously, that rock song.
Yeah.
The specific songs for scenes that they use in this is excellent. I will say that it's like almost like a character.
Well, it's like James Gunn
this.
or it's like where the music really plays a role in the story, and they specifically like went to Kate Bush like, hey, we want to use your song like this. We're gonna play it this. So like, and she owns the song, so all that money is going to her. So more part. Just because you released a song in the '80s doesn't mean, like in the past, doesn't mean something can bring it back and make it relevant. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people watching Stranger Things never heard that song before, and now they're discovering it now. So what was old is new again.
For sure. And then going on with the rest of, obviously we did speak about Steve and the girls there. But yeah, I really like Nancy this series, She's like obviously one of the seniors in the team and taking the kind of investigator reporter way of doing it. And the show started off great with her as well, with Vecna. That was all kind of creepy. And her and Steve's relationship, I kind of like, it's super cute. They've gotten closer now. And she's I think I liked her more throughout this series than the previous series. I'll just cover some others as well. Well, the stuff with Dustin and Eddie, fantastic. The last 2 episodes. I mean, obviously I really like Steve and Dustin as well. Their banter's great, but I wasn't 100% sure the first couple of episodes with Eddie, and then just I warmed to him more and more. His relationship with Dustin and with the team. He's funny. He gets involved with the action, yes, reluctantly, but he's just kind of he's being mistreated by people at Hawking, and believe that he's in a cult and believes he's a murderer, and that they take him in, misunderstood, and he's just one of them. And he contributed throughout, and I kind of liked his death as well. Like obviously didn't run away, had to be the hero, and that scene at the end, it nearly got me. I'll be honest, nearly got me with Eddie's uncle, with Dustin as a sitting down. Again, fantastic acting from the lads that plays Dustin. Like the way he explained, he's a hero, he sacrificed himself, and even the uncle, obviously never seen him before, but the way he was getting emotional, I thought it was great, really heartfelt stuff. And yeah, like these scenes, I don't want to compare, but like these scenes compared to Mike emotional scenes. I know people are going to talk about Mike's scenes, but these don't compare. I mean, these are so much. I'm so much more invested in that because the character died and he sacrificed himself for Dustin in a kind of roundabout way by staying behind. And yeah, I just thought it was a brave thing to do as a character. Yeah, because he had a chance to get out and he didn't, So on top of that, with the whole, I did like, the fact that the Hawkins team, they were planning this mission, and it was a really bad plan to go into the Upside Down. Let's just get as much weapons as we can, and let's just try and take out Vecna and try and survive as long as we can. Ridiculous plan, quite frankly, but I did like, because it did bring the bit of drama, a bit of stakes to it.
Yeah.
Because I thought, okay, probably not going to survive, some people, or it is a really bad idea, trying to just waiting for 11 to come and help them, or whatever they're going to do, being in another dimension that, you have no clue about really what creatures are there, etc. So ridiculous idea, but that's some of the charm that was in the first series, where they'd walk through walls, they'd dare, just use that adolescence sense of wonder to kind of push them through. And I felt that during these moments, and the kind of sweet moments when they're all traveling together. Like I said, I prefer the story when the team is together. So them moments, the Hawkins ones where they're all together there, I really liked. And so I'll get your comments on Dustin, on Eddie, and like I said, Steve and the girls. We already mentioned them, but if there's anything else you want to cover, I love that kind of tense scene when they were shopping for the gun and stuff, and I forgot the bunny's name, but he did a great job this series. That bully, because you could say he completely changed from being a jock to being like this disturbed individual who, if I was in issues, I would kind of believe that as well. These guys, especially walking in, seeing Max, like these guys are in a cult, right? I would just think that, like, why wouldn't you? Like, for his point of view, in his shoes, I would kind of think that as well. So, he kind of, I even felt like he wanted to believe Lucas in the moment where he was saying, if you wake her up, we're all going to die. But what he's been through, I understood it. So, and then obviously he died as well. So that was another death. But yeah, overall thoughts on the rest of the people from Hawking, and what were your standout moments there? Is there anything you didn't like before we get into the Vecna character? Because I want to discuss that as well.
I mean, his character kind of just slowly devolved into like a little cult leader of himself, because he kind of like brainwashes the town to think like it's Eddie and this cult. We have to find him and kill him. And you're right about their plan. Like if you think about it, their plan is really stupid. But you got to remember, they're all teenagers and young adults. I can understand why they think that plan would work. Because from a certain point of view, like Obi-Wan said, it actually makes sense. I can understand why they think it would work. But as a viewer, you're like, no, there's no way this is going to work. But shenanigans. So, but to give them credit, and I love Nancy, especially this season, because as Mike stood back, Nancy stepped up. Where she was the one saying, like, this is the plan. Don't deviate from the plan. This is what you're like. She was the general and everything. And I love her and Robin's relationship as it grew, because they basically were just like, they're together but not really together. I love that they had their own little relationship that blossomed, especially when they went to the mental institution and everything. Loved all that. That. Eddie was kind of like, I didn't know quite how to feel about him at the beginning, because I thought he was just, I was hoping like he wouldn't be just stuck in the outhouse or whatever, and they have to keep bringing him stuff. I was like, are they actually going to do something with him, or is he just going to stay there? So I'm glad they actually got him out of there and he became relevant to the story. I wasn't a fan of how he died, because they pretty much he went out there to die. And I'm like, you could have at least set it up where he saved Dustin, which would make sense. Especially like when they were saying, we're not the heroes, we're just gonna, he could have been a hero, and he could have literally, because then if he would have literally sacrificed himself for Dustin, then what Dustin said to his uncle would have rang even truer. Like, your son is really a hero. He saved me. Like, no one's really gonna know what kind of sacrifice he made. But I know. Like, so I don't like that they pretty much he went out there to die. So I didn't necessarily like that, but whatever. But yeah, everybody else, the Hawkins thing was like grade A steak. It's like that's the main course. At any time they cut away from it, it was lesser than. And then when
Right.
they, especially when they went back to the boys in the van, it was like, oh my god.
Hmm.
But everything in Hawkins worked. Everything. I felt like everybody storyline was flushed out and explained. Everybody had something to do. I didn't feel like they were wasting time and wasting screen time, like just waiting for something else to happen, like everybody else was in the other storylines. I
Hmm.
loved everything that happened in Hawkins. To me, that was, and it's always been like that way. Anytime for
Yeah.
me, the show has gotten away from Hawkins is when the show started to dip a little bit, especially
Mhm.
like in season 2. You got out of Hawkins, the show kind of went off the rails, and when you go back, it's fine. So Hawkins is great, and I loved every minute of everything that happened in Hawkins.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Hawkins is that's Stranger Things for me. A
Yes.
small town, creepy woods, you know, other dimensions. It all happens there. And before kind of we do predictions of next season or overall thoughts on this season, I do want to comment on on the Vecna character
Yes.
um, and kind of what happened there. So I was pretty, I'll say the first part of season 4, I wasn't too maybe especially in the first few episodes I was not too invested in him as a villain because compared to like the mind flare or like the demagogue who are like actual scary monsters that come out of nowhere to try and eat you, I just didn't like the look of him. It was like this humanoid monster thing that is like like coming out of clocks and what I just didn't understand it. But the more the story developed, the more I liked it. And then by the part 1 of the finale, let's say, like
Yeah.
just all of a sudden the makeup just like it just looked more appealing to me, and like I understood because now I know or the backstory is sort of why he looks like that, you know, and we get the answers of how. So I was really wondering, like, how is all of the upside down stuff connected to what's going on? Like, why are they after these kids? Like, I still thought that throughout, even before watching this episode, we got a lot of these answers. It was him the whole time. Whether it's we know why the mind flare looks the way it does, because he used to see these, insects and creatures, and he has the ability to control this thing. Um, and the demagogues, obviously, he's learned to communicate with them, and the kind of the whole upside down thing. How it's kind of comes alive. It's all him controlling this with this kind of telekinesis ability that him and Eleven share. So yeah, glad getting all them answers, and now I understand. Like, oh, like, that's why they're attacking. It was him the whole time, as they obviously talked about. So that filled in his backstory, and yeah, and seeing him kind of slowly coming to the kind of real world, and because he now technically got his 4th victim. So obviously we saw some of the earthquake effects that was reported
Yeah.
on, and people leaving Hawkins, and yeah, just so what are your overall thoughts on Vecna and where it's been left, and getting some backstories about the previous seasons and answers about these creatures and monsters, and they're all kind of revolving around him and his story in the Upside Down and things like
Yeah, if you still live in Hawkins after that, it's something wrong with you.
that.
Like,
Right.
I love how like they're driving in, everybody's leaving out. I was like,
Serial killers,
yeah,
earthquakes,
earthquake,
unexplained activity,
like
cults. It's like, no, you need to
teenagers
get
getting
out.
murdered. I'm like, yeah, I'm out of here. Like, well,
Yeah,
it's the '80s. Things don't cost that much. I can move somewhere else.
right, right.
So the fact that Mike and his family and all his friends are still there, like, really? Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
I'll play along. But anyway, yeah. But the whole thing with Vecna, I love the slow build up to him.
it
Like that
was.
we didn't get to see him, and we weren't quite sure exactly what was killing because maybe it was a mind flare we didn't really
Hmm.
know, and then
Hmm.
and the way that they tied it into with the storyline with 11, I think really worked because we got to see one and his storyline, and then kind of see his backstory, and then you understand his motivation of why he's the way he is, and
Right.
then why everything is tied into where it's tied into. Like it all because otherwise you're like, what the hell is so special about this damn little town out of nowhere?
Mm.
Like what
Hmm.
makes it so special?
Right.
So I love that they answered all of that, and the fact that I was always wishing it was Barb, to be honest. I was like, justice for Barb. I wanted it to be Barb, like her getting her revenge for being picked on, but then we saw her body and it was just like,
Mm.
oh man, it's not gonna be Barb. Oh well.
Right.
But no, but Vecna thing, I think that works. I love that he's not dead.
Hmm.
I love that the town is broken. And I'm just curious to see how they how what is their approach to him now, and what is his approach to them now.
Hmm.
It's like, because everybody knows what's going on now. We know, they know, he knows. So we're all on the same level now of understanding what's going on. So I'm curious what the Duffer Brothers are going to do with that going forward. But I just like the whole approach with his backstory and everything. Again, in Hawkins, great stuff. So I loved it all.
Yeah. So now to obviously conclude, let's just give some maybe thoughts or predictions where the show might go in season 5. I believe it's the last season. I think they've announced that. So
Yeah.
so yeah, no release date on that yet. But for me, I think certain characters are going to have to step up due to what's happened in the story. Like Dustin, I think he was maybe on this mission with Eddie and with Steve before, because I think he's just maybe growing to do some kind of physical potential sacrifice or that kind of thing. Obviously, he's always got involved in that kind of stuff previously, but maybe he's going to use what's happened to Eddie to inspire him to do something. And just a lot of other characters, I think, are going to step up. You know, they're going to have to now, because obviously what's happening with Vecna and stuff, and everyone is together. You know, finally in Hawkins. You know, I was dying for this to be like, you know, midway through the series, and then the rest of the series. We're kind of getting this in season 5 where, you know, we're going to see sacrifices. You know, we're going to see, you know, people. I'm going to call them OG characters and secondary characters. What I mean by secondary characters, I mean like Nancy, I mean Jonathan, and obviously the OG characters are the original kids and the parents and stuff. So they're all going to obviously need to work together. You know, I don't see a lot of them. I don't see all of them making it out. Obviously, there was a few deaths in this series, but like I said, it was all the new characters. Plus, well, Matthew Bodine's character, you know, the Josh's bully school kid, obviously Eddie. Again, these are all, yeah, like I said, these are characters that are coming in and out.
That they set up and then killed. It's like,
these aren't the 20 main characters that are in the series, and it was a little that they're one of the things that I was a little frustrated with at the end of the finale, because I was expecting. So obviously Max did 100% die and then just literally came back to life, which was kind of shocking, really. But because that would have been a fantastic death scene. I did not see that coming like that. But that's that is the stuff that I would like to see, because it's coming to that point now where you've got 20 lead cast members, majority of them high schoolers or whatever, and, you know, taking on beings, monsters, dimensions. It will just raise the stakes so much more and bring so much more emotion to the show. I definitely enjoyed it. Is it my favorite series? Definitely not. I would probably say the first season is going to be untouched at this point, but I really maybe season 2 might be my second, and then season 4. So I'm not 100% sure. I need to think on it, but yeah, it was a little underwhelming. Definitely some cool stuff, some action stuff. Nice to see finally everyone back together. This is the show I want now. Everyone back together in Hawkins with a threat. They know what it is, as you said. They know what it is. They know what the danger is. What are they going to do now? So because it seems to be, you know, coming into the real world now, which have never really, the Upside Down coming into the real world, and yeah. So what they're going to do with all that. So now I literally expected this to be in my head before watching season 4. I thought this would be the start of the finale of series 4, if that makes sense. I thought everyone come together. Now what's going to happen? So it is. I mean, I am definitely excited for season 5, but I did enjoy it, season 4, but I was slightly underwhelmed with the stakes, because, like I said, the whole 20 cast list all survived. The main cast list, the recurring actors and stuff. So, what about you, Sean? Overall thoughts on the series? If you want to rank it in seasons or whatever, and thoughts about what's going to happen in season 5.
Oh, if I rank it, it's 1, 4, 3, 2.
Okay.
So, because I think the first season, nothing's touching that.
Yeah,
I think they have
that's just, if you told me that's 10 out of 10 television, I wouldn't argue with you. Like I would say, yeah. Like,
no, it had everything. It had everything, and it had nostalgia beats. It had great action, great storytelling, great writing, great characters, and I think they've never really gotten back to that. And that's when they actually, to me, I think season 1 and season 2, they really rammed home the '80s nostalgia, and less so in 3, and even less so in 4.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, except for the parents not giving a crap where their kids are, there's really no explanation of that. This could be any time.
Yeah, it could. I thought that through watching it as well.
Yeah.
Like this, you apart from the, I'd say the outfits and
Outfits,
the hair.
yeah.
Apart from that, you wouldn't know it's the '80s. Like,
Yeah, I could have said that's the '90s. And
yeah, unless like obviously in season 1, as you said, every scene you could catch the references with the nostalgia and things like that. So now, yeah, and that was the charm of why I was so invested in every scene in season 1. Now it is a different show. You're right.
Yeah. And it's not that it's a detriment. It's just that it just feels different because they're still in the '80s. Like, theoretically, this is like been like 3 or 4 years in the show's time period.
They give the date at the start in the first episode. I think it's 85.
I think it's 84. But
yes, it could be.
Either way. And I'm hoping they actually do a time jump because these kids don't look like they're freshmen.
Yeah, no, they don't.
No. And
especially I thought Jonathan, he could be 30. You know, he's 30 playing like what, an 18-year-old. He's the one that I thought no.
Well, especially because he looked stoned. Not. Yeah, he looked. It made him look way older.
Yeah, Lucas does not look 15. Is he supposed to be playing? No.
Yeah.
No, he's 21. Like easy.
No, I mean I think that's how old he really is.
Yeah, exactly.
So and that's one of the reasons why I wanted them to die, someone to die of relevance, because then if you do a time jump, it's like the Avengers after Infinity War. You have to live with what happened, and like how do you live with that? Just like how Max is dealing with the death of her brother and how that affected her. Imagine all of them having to deal with the fact that maybe Steve died, or if Max really died. Like having them having to deal with a loss, because they haven't lost. None of them really have, and then they kind of tweaked it. Well, Eleven's lost a little bit. Like, not really. She hasn't really gotten an L. Not really, except for losing her powers. So I would really hope in season 5, hopefully that they're all together, like Winona Ryder's character moves back to Hawkins. Like, I don't want them all split up again. They all have to be in Hawkins, because I thought this season was going to be like, oh, they're going to spend the first half getting together, and I thought they were going to fight whoever the main villain was towards the end, and that didn't happen. But they had all the time in the world to do that, but for whatever reason they chose not to. This season, I want them all in Hawkins dealing with this threat, especially if this is going to be the last episode. And I want them to do something with Will. I need Will. I want some backstory with him in the Upside Down when he was first captured. I want to know the thing in his neck. I want to know more about him to tie him and Vecna together and give Will some time to shine. And if you're going to do something with his sexuality, do it already and stop dancing around it. If he has feelings for Mike, let's hear him say something. And Mike does not have to acknowledge it. Or he doesn't even have to tell Mike. Do something with it. Stop dancing around it. Do something with it. And you're right. The fact that nobody died is just becoming less and less believable. It's like this is the 4th season and none of them has really died. And if you want to even count the Max thing, I technically don't, because she's not dead. So they're all still alive, and it's just becoming. And it's not like they're like trained assassins or spies or something like that.
They're nerds.
Kids.
They're just kids. Yeah.
Like
I'd say Hopper. Hopper is the most capable.
Well,
maybe Steve. Maybe even that's a push.
Yeah, but, they're pushing, and again, the more they involve themselves, the less it's starting to become less and less believable. Like that fight with Lucas was like, really?
Yeah, it was okay.
You would have got you'd be dead. You'd just be dead. So it's like and I thought this was a perfect season to do that, but they didn't do that. So the more episodes go by and they're having these encounters, and everybody just goes home scot-free. Like, time to go back home. Like, we had that nice reunion with Mike and her mom and all that stuff. Oh, you're never going on vacation again. It's like, okay. You never knew where he was, like, for this whole time, but whatever. That's just what I want there to be some actual consequences. And there really, really hasn't been. And I just really want there to be. And I want them to do something with Will. Consequences and do something with Will. That's what I want for next season, and I hope they address those things.
Okay. Let's just give it out of 10. Okay. What would you give Stranger Things season 4 out of 10?
I mean, if I were to give season one a grade, just to give you
Right.
clarification, I would give it a 9.5. Like, I
Hmm.
love the first season of Stranger
Right.
Things, and this season was the best season since that for me. And even though there was parts that I didn't like, is again everything. Every time they left Hawkins, I don't think they learned their
Hmm.
lesson from season two. When they left
I agree.
Hawkins season two, that was the weakest part of that season.
Hmm.
So for me, I think this is a solid 8. And the reason I can't go higher is because there's two groups that they kept cutting away to, and for me, that was just part of the show I didn't like. Every time they went away from the Hawkins team, as you put it, it just is like, can we get back to them? And sometimes they would set something up and then they wouldn't pay off until the next episode.
Hmm.
So I'm like, even though you're binging it, and I think this is the last season that they're gonna release altogether. I think by the time we get whatever the next season comes out, it's gonna be weekly. But I think the show is best when they're all together, like you said. So I think this is an 8, solid 8.
Yeah. So I agree. I think 8 is fair. Did enjoy a lot of it, but like I said, the main frustration is for me that they're not all together. I was dying for it to happen. At least I thought halfway, okay, I can accept, and the other half, they could they'd take on whoever the evil is, because obviously we didn't know at that point. But it just didn't happen, yeah, and it longed it out, and I am more invested. For example, when Mike is with 11 and they're in Hawkins, like
Yeah.
that kind of thing, and all their friends are around, I am more invested. But when he's over here and she's over there, and it's just not as fulfilling as a show for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll give it an 8 because I did definitely enjoy it, and I'm really looking forward to season 5 to see how it all ends up. Um, but yeah, I think that's it, guys. That is the show today. That is the review of season 4 Stranger Things. So Sean, is there anything you'd like to plug? Anything you want to say? Anything you want to promote?
No, I would just say thank you for having me. I love talking
Of course.
Stranger Things. It was great. It was not fun watching all of it because there's a lot to watch. It's like 4 hours the
Hmm.
second part, but I Netflix, please release it weekly. I think you'll benefit from it, and I think we all will benefit from it. But other than that, no. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed this conversation. Love Stranger Things from the beginning, and I can't wait to see it go. Hopefully, we don't have to wait 2 years to see season 5. So please,
Yeah.
Netflix, get on it. These kids aren't getting any younger. But yeah, no, I just had a great time talking about it. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'll say I quite like the format that they've released in terms of, like, you can binge these 7 episodes. Minimum one I think was 15 minutes, so 15 minutes to an hour and a half, and then you have two episodes which are 4 hours. I mean, that's to how much you're investing in that finale, and how much they've literally took all of Netflix's money for the budget or whatever. Like, I really like that, as opposed to a lot of these Disney Plus series that are 30 minutes. So like, yeah, I really like the format, and as well, like doing the 7 and then waiting just a month for the other two. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, like that format is different compared to a weekly one or like a full season binge. So I did like that because it was kind of on your mind for a month, and then now, obviously, what's happened. So yeah, I did kind of like it. The way they do it different, I'm up for that as well. But weekly's good. To talk about Stranger Things, every week for whatever is 10 weeks or 9 weeks or whatever it was. So that'd be great. But yeah, everyone, thanks for watching. Please, if you like what we're doing here, like the video, comment, subscribe, drop a comment of what you guys think of this series. Where do you rank it? And what were the standout moments? Anything you dislike, let us know. But yeah, I've been Bogz. That's been my guy Sean, and we'll see you guys on the next episode on Off the Wall.
Justice for Barb.